Probate house for sale, real estate terms to know. That's our topic today. We're going to get started right after this. Hi, I'm Kim Ward, real estate broker in beautiful San Diego, California, and expert with helping executors, administrators, and trustees with homes in probate or trust. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe and hit that bell button. That way you'll be notified of my weekly videos and you wouldn't want to miss any. Probate house for sale, real estate terms to know. You may be being inundated with all kinds of information, phone calls, mail, terms, an attorney, all things that are a bit overwhelming as the executor, the administrator, and the trustee of a loved one's home. To get ahead a little bit of some of the terms during the purchase and the sale of the property in probate or trust, here are the most common terms. As I list these terms, there may be some links up above that would give additional information of each one of the terms. Be sure to click on those if you want to know more. Number one, closing costs. As a real estate broker, I believe having the facts help to make good decisions. So whenever I meet with a potential seller, I bring along an estimated seller proceeds document. It has all of the closing costs listed out, so there aren't any questions, and it has all of the closing costs listed out, making it easy for you as the seller to understand what the closing costs are going to be. Some of the closing costs are, of course, commissions. That's how I get paid, and the buyer's agent gets paid. That's how we pay our bills and feed our families. Also, there'll be title and escrow fees. There'll be termite repair fees. You'll have some taxes that might be due. If you have a mortgage, that will be listed on there also. So that way, when you read over that estimated closing costs with me, you'll understand exactly what is going to be paid through the escrow process. And number two is escrow and title. Escrow is a third party. They're neutral. They collect all the information from both sides of the seller and the buyer, and they put lots of things together in order to make things go smoothly. They'll also be checking on if you have a mortgage on the property, they'll be getting the information on that. So when it's time to pay it off, they'll have all that information ready to go. In regards to title, I always make sure way ahead of putting the house on the market that we get a preliminary title report. This shows all the liens and debts on the property, maybe easements and other information. Quick story about Tom, executor of his father's estate, or so we thought. When I pulled the preliminary title report through the title company, it came to light that Tom's mother passed away prior to his father, and she was still on title. Nothing had ever happened with that to put the title into his father's name. So now we had to go through the entire process through the probate courts in order to get his mother's information, because we needed to have her name on all of the documentation as we worked through selling the house in probate. So we avoided a huge delay by getting that information up front before we put the house on the market. Number three, inspections. Once the buyer is under contract, once we've negotiated that contract, then the buyer will have a specific amount of time to do inspections. Inspections usually start with a general inspection report, and then if something is found that there are concerns about, for instance, the roof or the heating and air conditioning system, plumbing, electrical, then the buyer has the right to be able to bring in other more specific inspectors, such as a plumber. Number four, speaking of inspections, that is one contingency that's in the purchase agreement. Two other contingencies that are almost always there are appraisal and full loan contingency. Once we contract with the buyer, those timelines are going to be set in stone. So typically what I help my clients to negotiate is 10 days for inspection, 14 days for appraisal, and 17 days for all contingencies, including the buyer's loan contingency. My team and I will be monitoring those timelines to make sure that we stay in line with what was contracted, and we'll be sure to have your buyer remove those contingencies in writing. And number 5, going back to the contingencies, we already talked about that the appraisal is one of those contingencies, and it's a huge one. I always do my best to show up at the appraisal so that I can give documentation to the appraiser so that we make sure that the value the appraiser comes in at is also the value that we contracted for. We don't want any surprises by me not showing up and that appraiser not noticing some of the amenities that the home has that could add value and make sure that the appraised value comes in at the purchase price. So there you go, top 5 terms that will get you started to a great education so that you'll know what to expect during the probate or trust sale of the property. If you found this of value, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button, and that way you'll be notified every week of my upcoming videos. And if you have comments or questions, please post them below. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, and I love reading your comments. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week.